Hey everyone, and welcome to Mild Fuzz TV's Top 50 Movies of the Decade, Part 3. This episode is going to feature numbers 40 through 36. Hopefully you've seen the previous two parts, so go and check them out if you haven't. But without further ado, here is number 40.
So number 40, another horror movie. This is more of a B horror movie. Something that I know I enjoyed. Pretty sure Pete enjoyed. But it's The Shallows, starring Blake Lively. She's a surfer. She gets stuck on a rock. There's a shark in the shallows, and she's got to survive. And the only other creature there with her is this really quirky seagull that you grow to love, and you don't want anything bad to happen to the seagull or Blake Lively. Very gripping, I would say. I'm very invested. This is the movie that made me like Blake Lively as an actress. And when I see her in a movie, I'm like, oh no, it's not just to get the like she was in Sisterhood of the Traveling Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants, and a lot of those chick flick type movies. But no, she's pretty good, and this was the movie that woke me up to that.
It's a very silly movie. Like, the way the shark is determined to get to her is very unrealistic and very like he's got a vendetta.
Oh yeah,
Like he wants Blake Lively for some reason, and there's no real reason for it. But
because he eats numerous people. I say he. Who knows? The shark eats numerous people, yet still is hungry for her. And yeah, but I enjoy it. As someone that loves Jaws, anytime I can get a good shark movie, and I'll put this in there as a good shark movie, I'm stoked. And then you put in a performance like hers, and it's really her against a shark, right? Like there's very other little characters. She's not even really communicating on a phone or anything like that. So, and she was really good.
My 40 is Inception. So, yeah, I had Interstellar a bit earlier. I think Inception is the better movie of the two. I think it's got a lot more intricacies going on in the fact that it has a significantly larger cast, and the way that it can balance a lot of these cast members, and really kind of still focusing on we got our core couple, we got a main story with those going on, but there is a lot of a much larger supporting cast that really add to make the world feel even bigger. Even though Interstellar, so is really big in scope in terms of the perspective of the place it's going. Inception weirdly gets smaller. It's it's by its nature kind of introspective. Even though it feels quite big because it's got all these layers inside the dreams. But it's the wide cast of characters that makes it feel like a big world for me, and that all of them feel like really fully formed characters. And music's fantastic. It's some of Zimmer's finest work. It's up there in like top 3 Zimmer, I'd say. And it changed the music for the decade, I would say. This if I had to think of blockbuster music for the past decade, this style, the big horns for your action, the stuff that's going on, I would say this is the one that kind of that started that off, and probably feels like what I would consider the most common trend in the blockbuster music for the decade. And while I'm a bit sick of it now in other movies, this gets all the credit for doing it first and doing it well.
Number 40, that would be a little movie I call well, the movie is also called this. It's not just I don't have a nickname for it, but the movie is called Turbo Kid.
And, yeah, baby, I love Turbo Kid.
it's so good. It's like on the surface, I guess it's like a post-apocalyptic movie, which we've seen a ton of these, but I think what really makes this stand out from like your Mad Maxes or whatever is just like so much heart in it. Like it just feels like so, I don't know, kind of earnest and genuine, and it's like, I don't know, like strangely kind of happy. I feel like before like a post-apocalyptic movie, like it's not like a like there's definitely like like bad dark stuff going on in it, but it doesn't feel as depressing as other movies.
Yeah, but it's also got great gore when the occasion calls for it.
Yeah.
And Michael Ironside in his most Michael Ironside role to date.
Yeah, like all the performances are great, and I also love just like a small independent movie that you kind of find out of nowhere that just has like really good like It's like obviously they're not working with like a huge budget, but like they do really cool stuff with what they can, and yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. I think they were gonna do a sequel at some point. I don't know if that ever came out, but if it did, I missed it.
Final little detail here: it's set in the not too distant future of 1997.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. And I think doesn't he use like a power glove or something?
Well,
Yeah.
I don't think it's the real power glove, but it gets like a glove, and it's very
Okay.
clearly based on the power glove, the Nintendo power glove.
Number 40 is Mission Impossible 5 Rogue Nation. Unfortunately, it's the only Mission Impossible that made my list. But of the new ones, I know you disagree. I love this one the most.
Oh no, Ghost Protocol, man, come on.
Something about Tom Cruise on the side of that freaking airplane, though.
The side of the tallest building on the planet.
He had to ride that airplane like 17 times.
He was dangling from the tallest building on the planet.
He rode the side of an airplane.
You can do that in any country. This was like
All we're trying to say here is that Tom Cruise is incredible still, and I just love every time he puts himself in danger.
he's an
I
absolute.
wish I could have had all 3 of those films on here, but I picked one, and Rogue Nation is my favorite.
He's an absolute madman, is what he is. But he's a very entertaining madman to watch, so I'll give him props. Did you hear? I don't know if you heard this. There was this a number of years ago. There was talk between him and James Cameron about actually shooting a movie in space, and that is simultaneously the most James Cameron and most Tom Cruise thing I've ever heard in my life.
It probably would be brilliant.
Yeah. Obviously, Tom Cruise has got at least 2 more Mission Impossibles to do, and James Cameron's got 4 Avatars to do. So I mean, they're both busy, but like,
Yeah, maybe that'll be their final send off to the world.
yeah, they'll probably
Their final
both
kiss.
die doing this, and it'll be like, yeah, well, that's the way they wanted to go out. They wanted to go out doing something crazy for film. This was going to be it. But no, I mean, even though I think Rogue Nation is actually the weakest of the 3 Mission Impossibles of this decade, I want to like compliment that franchise for becoming better
So
than it
good.
was before. Like, because I enjoy the first one. I think 3 is okay. 2 I think is terrible. Mission Impossible 2 is just garbage. But
No,
like,
I love the first one though. When the first one came out, that was like a life-changing film for me.
Ghost Protocol onwards, like the 3 from this decade, are all really
so
fun.
good.
And they really focus on this. It's kind of like John Wick, where they focus on it's different types of stunts, but it's all stunt work. It's this Tom Cruise running from things, dangling from things, and like it's all this stuff. The car chases, all of this stuff is what makes these movies great. And even though I think this one that you're picking is, I think the weakest of the 3, it's still pretty solid. And
Well, I really like the introduction of Rebecca Ferguson's character also. Which one had the scene with the Kremlin? Was that the 4th one?
the Kremlin.
Are they like trying to sneak into the Kremlin? It's the one where they have like the shield with the image projected on it, and when the guard looks, like it follows his eyes and stuff. That was a really good
I
scene too.
think that's the 4th one. It's
Well,
hard. It's hard.
Can we just count the trilogy? I'll just make it a tie.
No, no ties, no ties. My number 40 is The Handmaiden, which is another Korean film. I didn't realize I had 2 back to back, but this is actually Chan-wook Park, who I mentioned a few entries ago. This is one of these movies that you would never see coming out of Hollywood, because the way it balances some really extreme ideas and visuals with comedy and heartfelt drama and bounces between them is the first thing I think of when I think of Korean cinema, because it's the way they balance all these different tones and genres effortlessly and bounce between them as if it's nothing, and it never feels forced or jarring. It always just feels like it belongs. It feels like it fits in this world. And this is a story about a forbidden romance between the handmaiden and the woman of the house, and the evil husband who's there. And I will not say much more than that, but let's just say it's full of twists and turns. It's a heavy character piece, and it's one where you really grow to hate the bad guy. Like, you really want him to get what's coming to him.
Yeah, that movie goes places. It's a journey, right? I say, it makes you feel things that, and it really twists your perception as the movie goes on as to who you should like more than other ones.
And the romance really works, which is, I think, what makes the whole thing work, is that you actually do care about the romance, and it feels genuine and heartfelt. So that's kind of it's at the core, that's its biggest strength.
Number 39, if I'm going back, I believe this is my first entry into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Try not to overdo it with them. As we get going, they might pop up a couple more times. But this one is Thor Ragnarok, directed by Taika Waititi. As a huge Thor fan, this is easily the best Thor movie, because the first one's fine. Second one, the further away I get from it, the more it's not a fun watch. Like, it's one that if we're doing a rewatch, I can actively skip and be fine with. Although Kat Dennings is pretty good in that one. But yeah, this completely took Thor and completely dumped everything that we knew, did a whole new thing with it. And some people hated it. Some people that love Thor did not like this movie. I loved it. And I thought Taika bringing this irreverent feel to him, but I still feel Thor learns. Like, he's not the same character at the beginning as he is towards the end. And not just for some other reasons, but like, he actually grows. And Loki has good moments in it, and it's got what's her name? Is Valkyrie, Tessa Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
I think she's pretty great in it. Hulk, probably my favorite Hulk performance is in this movie. Kate Blanchett is Hela. It's just got a lot going for it, and thoroughly enjoyed this one.
It was very bright and colorful.
Yes. Yeah, and you can kind of feel the like James Gunn influence from Guardians a little bit. Like, I feel the Grand Master character, Jeff Goldblum, a little bit on the Gunn side. But the rest of it, I definitely, seeing Taika's other movies at this point now, you can definitely see the threads that make him. But yeah, I really enjoy it. And it's also very funny. Like, it's got that Taika Waititi dry sense of humor that just colors it. And Chris Hemsworth, another one, someone that, I said Channing Tatum's like this, but I don't think Chris Hemsworth can look the way he does and be as funny as he is. It's just not fair. Pick one, man. Right? You have any thoughts on Thor Ragnarok, Pete?
I mean, I like it. I think it's really funny. I think the actual sort of story of it, the drama, kind of falls flat for me in the third act. I don't really care about the conflict, but all the jokes and like Thor and Hulk, like, back and forth, and all the humor. For me, once they go back to Asgard at the end, it kind of just becomes a Marvel movie. But the first two thirds,
I get that.
I quite liked.
Also, Carl Urban. I was naming off the other guys. Carl Urban is Scourge. Anytime we can get him in a movie, I'm a fan of that.
So my number 39 is John Wick. And it's funny because on my last entry with Inception, I spoke about how the music for that kind of set the tone for the rest of the decade, was kind of things following that theme. And I feel like John Wick did the same for action movies for the rest of the decade. Everything has been trying to be the next John Wick since then, and none of them have come close to to actually quite getting there. Although there's been some good entries, but this gets extra credit for being the one that spawns all of that, and being pretty damn fantastic, because the direction is fantastic. It's spectacular stunt work and fights, and it just looks amazing, and it's a joy to watch.
Yeah, it's very. It's the gunplay. It's the hand-to-hand fighting in the gunplay. It's the way that's shot and the way that's executed. That's what makes John Wick John Wick. And Keanu Reeves is pretty likable. So
that helps. Yeah.
I'm gonna go back to some horror stuff for my number 39, and that would be Insidious Chapter 3. We talked about these movies quite a bit on the horror list, but I just the Insidious movies really stand out this decade for me. I feel like for better or worse, they kind of set a tone that I feel like a lot of other movies try to capitalize on, and for the most part none do them very well. But I really like all the first 3 Insidious movies, and especially Chapter 3, which is surprising because I really like James Wan, but this is the first one that he didn't direct. But we got Lee Whannell, who's really good, and
Whannell, not Whannell, just Whannell.
Whannell. He's he's
of
great
the Oxfordshire Whannells.
And Yeah, no, this is good. It has a really interesting, premise with the main character where you have with a lot of the Insidious movies, it involves not necessarily a place being haunted, but a person being haunted. And what's kind of cool about this one is you have this character. She's in an accident early on, so she breaks her leg. So she's like, it adds this extra layer of helplessness and immobile. She's immobile for a good chunk of it, which
Immobilized.
Immobilized.
I think it's the word you're looking for.
Say it.
Yeah.
So that that I think that really really adds to like a lot of the creepiness and the scares that go into it. So yeah, Insidious Chapter 3, big fan.
Yeah, I like Insidious quite a bit actually. I was pleasantly surprised. I like the first one more still, but I think 3 was a good standalone sort of expansion to that universe.
Totally. Yeah, I think they're all really close in my book, but I think 3 just edges it out just a bit. But I mean, yeah, I easily could have put like, the first one on this list, and of the 3, the second one's probably my least favorite, but I think it's still really good.
39 is a horror film. It Follows.
Oh, I do love me some
probably
It Follows.
Too low on the list for you, but very, very strong horror film that really sticks with you after you watch it. Like,
one could say it follows you home.
It follows you. Yeah, for a while. I saw this movie when I was living out in the woods, and like there would be times I walk my dog or just let her go out, and I would stand by the door and I just kind of look. Or, like, what if there's like a person there who just like starts walking towards me? Yeah, really good film. Of course, it's layered. It's about more than just like let's scare people. It's about sexual awakening and the costs of sex, and it's not really an anti-sex film, but it is like a use protection film.
I mean, sure.
Be careful, you vet somebody.
I mean, it's deeper than that. The sex stuff is really just like the obvious thing to use. What it's really about is just coming of age. It's about growing up.
Yeah.
It's about actually, the exact phrase I would describe to use that film is it's about the loss of innocence, and how once you lose innocence, you can never regain it. And that's kind of what the It Following represents. Because even the characters in the movie talk about how they weren't allowed to like go past a certain street when they were kids because like this is kind of the end of their neighborhood, and like they see this part of Detroit as a worst part of the neighborhood, and it's all about going outside of their childhood comfort zones. And
so I like the rules that are established for this, I guess, villain that's stalking them.
I love rules in a horror movie.
Yeah, and they really do a good job. There's one scene in the movie that I don't know why, but I don't love it. And I think it's just because it's when they like try to fight back. And I'm sure you love this scene. But I don't know why. It's just the one scene that puts it lower on my list of horror movies for the decade. But still really strong. Definitely sticks with you. Really smart horror film.
My number 39 is The Nice Guys. This is Shane Black's buddy cop, which doesn't really narrow it down for Shane Black movies, admittedly, but it's, his buddy cop movie with Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe, and the absolute movie stealer of the daughter, Angourie Rice, I want to say. I'm probably butchering that from memory, but
I always assumed it was a soft G, but I could be wrong.
You could be, I don't know. But she absolutely steals the show. Shane Black just has a way of writing witty kids that just comes across as so likeable. But the jokes in this are great. The action is fine, but it's the chemistry between the leads. It's the way they play off each other. It's how incompetent they are. I'll never forget the joke where Ryan Gosling thinks he's got a lead. There's got a building to go check out, and they go there, and the building just doesn't exist anymore. Like that his knowledge is so out of date that it is fundamentally useless. And it's a wonderful train wreck of a character. In a movie just full of just biting wit, and kind of the crown in Shane Black's certainly his directing career, if not his writing career.
Number 38. This is a movie I know Pete's very, very into. I don't know where it's going to show up on his list, but I'm sure it's in the top 10 somewhere. But my number 38 is It Follows, which I only saw because of the man sitting in the chair over here. Early in the show, this came out in 2012, 2013?
2015.
2015, okay. Early, so it's still kind of early when we were doing 1.21. I remember you reviewing this, and usually I would tune out your reviews, right? Because, I might see this movie. I don't want to have it, colored how I'm gonna do it. But I remember you talking about this movie where it felt almost like a dream, but it also was so real, like you could feel it. And yeah, it's oh man, it's kind of trying to describe it is like trying to describe a dream at points. Where it is a movie with a beginning, middle, and an end, and there's conflict and whatnot, but it feels like a dream, and I think that to its strengths. The main actress, Micah Monroe, she's someone that I thought we would have seen more of by now, and I haven't seen too many. I mean, she was in Independence Day too.
That probably killed the career. Was Independence Day?
Yeah, and that's because she's a very good horror girl. Like I don't want to. I mean, she does carry the movie. I don't want to say that with too many, but I think a lesser actress, it's not nearly as good.
38 is. It's finally happened. Solo, a Star Wars story. And there we go, Pete's face. Don't know why he's pull that face. Of course, this is going to be on here. It's not really a surprise. I love this movie. It's such a good Star Wars movie. It has one singular problem, just one, maybe 1.5 at a push, but they're tiny little flaws in an overall 2-ish hour runtime movie. It's such a great adventure. It is an adventure movie with a lot of really great characters in there, and not just not just Han and Lando, the characters that we know obviously, but a lot of the new characters are really great. Particularly Woody Harrelson's character is delightful, and it steals a lot of the scenes that he's in.
No comment.
So that'd be 10 Cloverfield Lane. Again, another one that's kind of surprising. That I feel like kind of came out of nowhere. No one really needed or wanted a Cloverfield sequel, and it's not really a sequel, or at least it doesn't really feel like it. It just feels like something they really just slapped the name on, which I think is exactly the case. But very compelling movie. A very interesting thing to see when you're doing like I guess if you like would count this as like apocalyptic kind of thing, because it's kind of taking place during a time where you're getting these big alien monster invasions, but it's the this cool little twist where you're not focusing on that, you're focusing on this madman John Goodman, who basically has kidnapped these people in an instance of being like, oh well, I'm protecting you from the monsters outside, and you're never actually sure what's going on, if they're real, how dangerous he is. He wavers from being like insane and scary to kind of fatherly, and a really good, just superb creepy performance by Goodman. And it's really, really fun movie. I think I only saw it maybe, I might have seen it twice, but I feel like it's one I need to go back and watch again because I really dug it.
I have another Taika Waititi film. I have The Hunt for the Wilderpeople.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, very funny film about a young boy who's a foster kid who gets adopted by a loving family in New Zealand, and played by, I don't know who plays the mom, but her husband and his new foster father is Sam Neill, who's kind of a grouch and a wild man. He doesn't like people or kids, but she dies pretty quickly after he's adopted, and he runs into the forest with his foster dad chasing him out of care, and they go on an adventure of sorts, and are constantly in escape from the law, and it's a really funny, of course the dialogue is so great because it's Taika Waititi, and he really does a good job writing for kids.
Sam Neill, I almost like to think that if it wasn't for the accent, this could be like where Alan Grant ended up, like years after Jurassic Park, because he also hated kids. Like this fits in with the character. But
they both have sweet journeys together. Yeah.
What's funny about this is that I like this well enough, but it didn't live up to the hype for me because I'd heard so many good things before I watched it. It was one of those things where I'd heard so many good things that when I actually finished it, I went, I mean, that was good, but I don't know if it's the raving, praise
Maybe.
that everyone's given it. So
I've watched it a number of times, and each time I like it a bit more. So maybe that's why it's on my list and not on yours.
you don't know it's not on my list.
I mean, you said you just didn't like it that much.
Fair. Okay, fair point. You've deduced the evidence, and I can't really argue with it that much. But my number 38 is The Big Sick. This is a film which is such a surprise. Matt made me watch this, essentially. It wasn't even on my radar. And basically because it looks like a rom-com. And it technically is a rom-com, but that's a disservice to what it actually is and what the quality is.
That feels really shitty to rom-coms.
No, it feels accurate. It feels accurate to rom-coms. But like, it's this great story, this true story even, about Camille Najani, who's the writer and the star in the movie. This is how he met his wife. This ridiculous story of how he barely had a relationship with this woman before she went in a coma. And he then had this weird relationship with their parents because he stuck around, even though the relationship was kind of already over, and he stuck around with the parents through all of the turmoil, through all the sickness. And it's full of wonderful but flawed characters. It's got a really interesting structure because it's got like a 3-act structure, but then the second act also has its own 3-act structure because it kind of has this own movie build up within its own movie. Because after you do the stuff with the love interest, you then have to do it with the parents. So they essentially bring with them their own 3-act structure. And it's delightful from start to finish. It's endearing. I think the final beat before it hits credits is just this beautiful moment that like stuck with me. Like I just think that and I don't even feel like it's a spoiler to say it has eventually a happy ending because it's how he met his wife. They're married. It's kind of the thing. She's not going to die.
I mean, unless he's really Hollywoodizing his own life.
Number 37 is one of 2 movies, I believe, from 2019, but I enjoyed this one so much I had to put it up. It's Ford versus Ferrari, and this is a movie that I did not think I was going to like. I remember seeing the trailer being like, oh, that could be fun, and then one of the film shows I listened to, one of the podcasts, gave it rave reviews. One of the guys felt like I did, like, oh, it's car stuff, I don't care. So I went to go see it, and it's one of the most transfixed I've been in a movie. For, like, I don't care about cars, but for that 2.5 hours, I cared about the 24 hours of Le Mans race. And I cared about Christian Bale's character, who's this kind of savant when it comes to cars. Like, he just knows them. And Matt Damon's Carroll Shelby, and how they play into the Ford Motor Company, competing against Ferrari, which up to that point had constantly won. And Ford wanted to make a showing because it wanted to show that we have cool cars too. We have race cars, not just family cars.
I am looking forward to seeing this at some point.
Mm-hmm.
I will say this though, because you mentioned the length there. Why is every movie this year 2.5 hours long?
Yeah, it's a commitment. But this one I didn't feel the time. It's once it gets going, you really are there.
Unless you're the Irishman, in which case you're 3.5 hours long.
Which I'm not gonna watch. As good as it is, I'm sure, guys, it's fine. But yeah, it's about 2:20, 2.5 hours, but it's really good, and it's got the story, it's got the performances, the direction's really solid. Like, it's mainly on this list because of how surprised I was that how much I enjoyed it. And Christian Bale, again, I don't know how he keeps doing this, where I know that's Christian Bale, but he melds into the character so much. Like, when you see the real guy, you're like, that's not Christian Bale, because he becomes him so much. Yeah, but it's really good.
My 37 is The Nice Guys. Yes, which just came up recently. But then I think it is the biting wit that makes this movie as good as it is for me. Yeah, there's some great characters, and the plots. It's fine. It's almost irrelevant. It's it's beats just that. Okay, this is where we need to go to have these characters on this journey and have lots and lots of one-liners and back and forth banter between them, and that is where it shines. Where you just have a couple of the characters together, just playing off each other, and it is extremely memorable and great because of that.
So my 37, another movie that was on our horror list, and that was Revenge. So this is a rape revenge story, which aren't always the most pleasant movies to watch, but this one stands out as just, it doesn't really feel like exploitative. It actually has like, a really good style, and like, visual direction to it. And it's really, really brutal, but just a really, cool movie that, yeah, like tough subject matter, but like once you get kind of past that incident, you're so like, it does feel very cathartic every time, the main character like takes a revenge out on someone.
Yeah, no, the movie's very stylish and has a good pulse to it. That's how I'd describe it, as a pulse.
Yeah, that's a good way. Yeah.
Yeah. The entire last 20 minutes is a great little game of cat and mouse, and you're really rooting for it by that point. So, no, really, really good stuff.
37 is another coming-of-age film. It is The Edge of 17 with Haley Steinfeld and Woody Harrelson. I think Haley Steinfeld is someone special right now who's acting currently, and her constant like anxiety in the movie is so contagious, and yet she's still like super likable, even though she's a total asshole to everybody around her, including her family. She has some really wonderful scenes where she's in love with a guy and accidentally sends him like a Facebook message, and the dread that's in her face, and the dread that we feel for her, like, God, it must be so hard to be a teenager right now in the time of social media. And I know other like shows and movies have sort of done this better. I haven't seen 8th Grade. I'm sure it's as good as this, but I haven't seen it, so it's not on my list.
It's wonderful.
This is the one that I'm choosing to represent this.
8th Grade is
theme.
Absolutely phenomenal. However, I will say this: Edge of 17, I watched for the first time a few months ago, and I'd heard good things, and I do think it lived up to what I heard. It's a really good movie. It's
very sweet.
Because you hear like, okay, it's a teen movie following a teenage girl kind of coming of age, and I'm like, okay, fine, but like I've seen a lot of coming of age stories, and like, is this just going to turn out to be like Mean Girls or something like that? Like, because it could be, right? From like hearing that in passing.
Sure.
But obviously Haley Steinfeld's great. The supporting cast are great. So not only
Woody Harrelson's an excellent teacher.
He is.
I mean, he's kind of a bad teacher, but like he's an excellent like
character.
Counter to her.
Yeah. Well,
she's so intense, and he's just like so chill. So and calls her out on her BS.
Yeah. In fact, the funniest scene in the movies with him, I wouldn't say what it is, but let's just say it involves what you were talking about earlier. Where it absolutely broke me. So it's generally really funny, but I think what's impressive about it is just how likable and relatable and sympathetic she is. And even though she makes a lot of shitty decisions, you can always kind of understand from a teenage perspective like why that seemed like the right thing to do in the time, and it gives her the growth she needs over the course of it to really give it an arc where it feels like it has a genuinely good core story to it, and she learns a lot along the way. And it tackles a couple of serious issues in there in places as well where it's applicable, and so yeah, no, I was pleasantly surprised at just how good Edge of 17 was. My number 37 is Happy Death Day, and I can't believe I'm saying this because this was at least partially written by a comic book writer who I despise with every fibre of my being by the name of Scott Lobdell. But Happy Death Day takes the Groundhog Day formula, plugs it into a slasher movie, and we get absolute gold. We get gold for a couple of reasons. It's got a pretty tight script, admittedly, in what it's doing. The character arcs are very good. The lead character's arc over the course of it's very good, but that would be nothing without the actors. I think Jessica Roth, who plays the lead, is phenomenal in the film. It does have a healthy dose of comedy, and what I wasn't expecting going into it is just how much heart it had, partly because her growth is actually really good. And it really does. And admittedly, Groundhog Day did this as well, so I don't know why I'm so surprised, but I guess I just expected, like, a little cheap Blumhouse horror movie. I wasn't expecting gold, but it did the thing where she's kind of an asshole, but over the course of the film, she becomes a better person. Edge of Tomorrow did the exact same damn thing. It worked in that too. This is a formula that works, as long as you keep putting it into new genres. You have to keep putting it into new genres. That is the rule. But you can keep doing it that way.
It's okay. It's fine. It's really overrated.
Number 36, I think it's my first Disney. Yeah, first Disney. Tangled, animated, 2010, I believe. Uh, thoroughly enjoy this one. It's a it's a princess movie, but it's very doesn't take itself too seriously. Mandy Moore plays Rapunzel. A lot of fun songs, and it's got Zach Levi as the love interest. Is this really cool thief named Flynn Rider. But yeah, it took the Disney princess formula and just had a lot of fun with it. So later when Frozen comes out, it's kind of disappointing that they just kind of fall back into the old tricks at that point. And I just thought we were past that with Tangled. But yeah, it stays up there. It does. It gets into it's still a kids movie. Like it never forgets that. But as an animated Disney film, you can do way worse, especially this decade. There's been a lot of misses, I would have to say. Have you seen Tangled, Pete?
I have not. No.
Oh, gotcha.
I'm fighting a cat who's decided that he wants to use my shoulder
I see that.
as a bed. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Good kitty.
Do continue.
My 36 is Under the Skin.
Yeah.
Yes, this is Scarlett Johansson playing is an alien on Earth, and she is seducing these extremely lonely guys just out in the street. You know, like they'll be in in a car, in a van, whatever, and she weird things ensue when she takes them back to her place. I won't spoil that in case you haven't seen it, but there's some intense visuals. But over the course of the movie, it is essentially about it's a movie about humanity where this alien, very inhuman character, learns some humanity, or the experience of being a person, and and how she changes over the course of the movie because of these experiences with these people. And it's a gorgeous movie though. The direction is incredible. It's a very quiet movie, but the direction, the acting is just top quality.
My number 36, that would be You're Next. Another one from the horror list. Again, this is just a super fun movie. It's I guess like a kind of a little bit of a spin on like the kind of the home invasion movies, which I feel like was really popular from stuff like The Strangers and whatnot. But this is another one where you have like a really awesome, badass like female lead who is just like going to war with these mostly like incompetent kind of would be killers. But again, it just feels so cool every time she's able to take someone out, and lots of really fun kills, great gore, like cool little cameos from like horror people, and really fun blast of a movie.
Yeah, such a surprise for me this decade. One of the best horror protagonists of the decade. The way she's able to, because if I was going to pitch this to someone, I'd say it's basically a bunch of serial killers trying to attack a house full of a family, but the main girl turns out to be freaking Rambo, and they don't stand a chance. And she's not that unkillable. Don't get me wrong. She does get hurt. She does, but she's very smart. She's very proactive, and she's very determined to fight back. And it's such a nice change. Like, don't get me wrong, I enjoy the arc from someone who doesn't know how to handle it and is scared and weak and becomes strong because they're pushed into that corner. I do kind of love the refreshing angle in this movie. No, she knows what to do. She is a badass, and she's going for it. It's good fun.
Hey, definitely. And this is another one where, like, we're talking before, about like not having as much time to watch stuff, and this is one that's like a bummer that I haven't watched it more. I've probably seen it 2, maybe 3 times, but again, this is one that I feel like I should be watching like once a year or whatever.
My number 36 is another family film. It's the Lego Movie.
Everything is awesome. Everything is cool when you're part of a team. Everything is awesome. You live in
I just remembered
dream.
a movie that I forgot to add. Oh, wow.
Oh, well.
Can I make it tie with this one?
No, you cannot.
Okay, I forgot to add Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. I know, it's a shame. It'll be an honorable mention. I'm mentioning it now while I remember. But okay. But Yeah, the Lego movie. A movie I again avoided because the trailers were terrible and I didn't think it was a movie marketed to me, but turns out I was wrong because when I saw it, it was mind-blowing. And the spectacle, I'm a big fan of the Lego video games, and I love how they are able to adapt things, adapt like properties that I know so well into Lego form and make it not, I don't know, like not too dumb or not too childish. Like they sort of make it for adults too, and I think the Lego Movie is an exceptional storytelling, and surprisingly very sweet at the end, with a really good message.
I think the ending is probably the best because I'm not as big a fan of Lego Movie as a lot of people are. I think the ending elevates it quite a bit because the ending is really smart and is really sweet. I have to admit, I find the actual main plot, though, for the most part, to be kind of dull. But not to put a damper on your entry, I'm just...
I did not. I was really disappointed in myself that I didn't go see it in the theater, especially because some of the set pieces that they created with Lego pieces were truly like, I can't like take my eyes off them because I recognize all these little pieces that they're using. I'm like, oh, literally everything is made out of a Lego piece. Like all the water as it's going up and down is all made of Lego pieces, and like really, really, really well done.
I mean, obviously it's all CG, but yeah, it's built as if it was all made of Lego.
Right.
Yeah.
But like it's, I don't know, like they're huge set pieces that they do with these just tiny little Lego pieces, and you can, if you zoom in on any one piece, you can like build a whole, Lego set out of it if you wanted to. That's like millions of Lego pieces. Really, really cool.
My number 36 is your next. And talk about surprises. This is a movie that is about a dinner party, a family dinner party, where one of the sons has brought his new girlfriend. A group of serial killers or attackers attacks the dinner party, and the twist is that this new girl, the newbie to the group, is actually a kind of a badass and knows how to set traps, who knows how to fight for herself, who knows how to plan things and think strategically and can take care of herself. And it's kind of a wonderful idea. Now, don't get me wrong, I do love the arc of, someone who's never been in a situation like this and they get stronger over the course of the film. They're very weak and kind of scared to begin with, but they grow strong. Sarah Connor, 101,
That's
right?
The standard trope for this style of thing.
Yeah. But this is, no, she actually knows what she's doing. She's been trained by John F. and Rambo. And that is just a beautiful idea. It's actually, and it's a movie that has some great sort of violent moments. It has some great funny moments, surprisingly, here or there, and it has just a fun element to it. It feels like it's having fun for its 90 or so minutes. It's full of nice little set pieces as well that I remember very vividly. And this is a movie that I saw to pass time in the theater because I had nothing better to do, thinking it was going to be bad because I hated the trailer, and then voila, I walked out of it feeling like, whoa, that was good. Who's this Adam Wingard guy? He's directed a banger. What's he doing next?
Yeah. Unfortunately, he's also turned out some shite. But no, I agree. This movie's a blast, and I put it on like Netflix or whatever. Just just putting something on. I didn't really expect much, and then it was kind of fantastic. It caught me off guard.
Best use of a blender in a horror movie. That'll bring an end to this episode. Part 4 will be coming soon. But let us know what you thought of these entries in the comments below. Like and subscribe and all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can support us for as little as $1 per month, which will get you some bonuses, get some outtakes, get some bonus episodes of this horror movie and sci-fi movie podcast we do, and a couple other little things. So go and have a look at that, and also rate us on podcast apps such as Apple Podcasts. Give us 5 stars, helps us out a lot. Share us, like and subscribe, and ding the bell and all that usual nonsense. But otherwise, that is us, guys. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, guys. And if you can get it, it's always nice to have diplomatic immunity.